My name is Karel. I'm solution consultant with Meira, and I was supposed to be here together with our co-founder Pavel Bulovsky. Unfortunately, he is not able to make it today, so I will be on my own. But I am not worried because I have you as my beautiful audience, and I'm really happy to have you to be able to talk about identity resolution, what is identity resolution, how to use it within CDP, and what are the use cases that properly managed identity allows us to do with our beautiful clients and how to use it in client personalized communication. All right, let's get into it. And as usual, within the session, you have the possibility to ask questions in Q&A chat, and we will get to the questions at the end of the session. So, why do we actually deal with identities, and what do we mean by the client identity in this digital era or digital age where everybody is using multiple devices, multiple browsers, and every single customer journey has multiple points, multiple touch points where we are actually able to collect the data and also interact with the client through personalized communication. Identity of the client can get easily scattered among different data silos, different touch points on the customer journey. And our goal is to connect those multiple identities or fragments into a single view of a customer across multiple devices, multiple channels, and even multiple domains. What can we actually use to create the identity are the individual pieces of data. Let's imagine a jigsaw puzzle where each touch point or a system provides only one piece of the entire picture. Now, if you imagine the jigsaw puzzle, it's not so easy to actually put it together. It needs to click. We need to find the right shape to fit into another shape to give us the complete picture. And it's very similar with the data that we are getting from different data systems. If the data is fragmented, we can call it disjointed data. It can also only provide very disjointed experience to the client. So then very nasty, ugly, and bad things in the communication can happen, like duplicate emails. To be honest, nobody actually likes getting duplicate emails. So very frequently, the strategy would be set in overly defensive way, and instead of addressing or risking to send duplicate emails, the companies are not sending anything, so they miss the opportunity to talk to their audience. Wrong targeting. We are very often seeing that the brands are wasting money in paid ads on the clients who are already converted. They are existing customers. So it's just waste of time and money to target them again. Unclear attributions and inconsistent recommendations and so on. That would be just another bunch of examples where the incomplete identity would be an issue. Now, in this slide, I have a real nightmarish picture. It's just the three lines, they are all in red, and they should really give us a bit of a nightmare because we live in the era of privacy cautious clients, and a lot of clients, when they are browsing the website, would be using some kind of ad blocker. They would be using browsers with high focus on privacy. And this is actually what is happening with our trackings, the usual trackings like Facebook, Bing, or Twitter, or LinkedIn, or Google, you name it. Well, it runs into a dead end. It gets blocked. So no tracking, no visibility, no identity. What can we do? Of course, we can do something. We can use first party and zero party data because so far this tracking apocalypse is only happening for third party data and the usual tracking suspects. So it means that the landscape has changed, as our beautiful caption says here. And with the privacy regulations, we are actually getting the data that is even more confusing, more scattered, or we are not getting the data at all. So with CDP, our goal is to get first-party data, to get high-quality data, even motivate the users to provide zero-party data so that we can create nice, complete picture of the client. What is identity resolution? Now, we are getting multiple data pieces from different data sources, and we need to connect them together to create the picture of the client. Otherwise, the picture of the client will be as blurry as we can see in the top right corner of this slide. And we want to get the clear picture. So the identity resolution means that we are converting or connecting those fragments into unified customer profile. And it's not only the data that we are getting in real time from the customer journey touchpoints. To create a complete picture of the client, we need to combine the real-time data, let's say behavioral data, with the historical data of the client in case that it's an existing client of the brand and we have any kind of historical data for them. So the development of the profile or of the entire audience can be as suggested here. They are moving from anonymous to pseudo-anonymous to known profiles or audiences. What do we mean by anonymous? That really is a visitor of the website, and most probably it's just a visitor. They are not client yet. If they become a client, they most probably will share some of their details, profile details, such as an email address, phone number, and so on. So from purely anonymous client, purely anonymous visitor, they are becoming pseudo-anonymous or fully identified client. So the development of the quality of the audience goes from, let's say, technical attributes such as device IDs, cookies, first-party IDs, into well-described identity of the client that includes also contact details. It includes the purchase history, view history, and behavior of the client. So we are trying to move those people who are interested in our brand, they are in any kind of communication with the brand, from anonymous to known, and CDP is just the perfect system to do so and to help us with creating single view of a customer and high quality identity that can be later turned into audiences. This is how we actually get the clear picture about the client. From anonymous customer, we are collecting the data from any touch points on the digital customer journey. So it can be obviously website, it can be mobile application, it can be social media, as much as social media is willing to share about the clients, which to be honest is not much. We all know that social media is basically a walled garden, but still there are pretty decent techniques on how to get the data about the client on the website and social media and use it to target and personalize the communication. We can also get the data from point of sales system And all those data points would be collected in Meiro CDP. They can be combined with the data from, let's say, a data warehouse or CRM system and so on. And within CDP, the identity resolution process happens. The result of identity resolution process should really be a single view of a customer. And once we get that clear picture of who we want to talk to, we can use any kind of data activation. So in Meiro CDP, it's possible to address those known or even anonymous clients. We will get back to it later through native channels, or we can export their data into marketing automation, loyalty programs, back into CRM, back into data warehouse, wherever it is needed. But the goal is to create nice and clear picture, nice and clear single view of a customer. The single view of a customer in Meiro CDP is created in real time. And what do we mean by real time? Real-timeness, if that's even a word, is really happening from data collection through the identity resolution to creating the profile and segmenting the profile in the audience and exporting to activation. This process in Meiro CDP runs usually well under 1 second. Most often, it's somewhere between 300 to 500 milliseconds, depending on complexity of rules and the data sources. Now, you don't obviously need to remember those numbers, but what is useful to remember is that we are able to collect the data from, let's say, a website, and even within the same session, we can already provide the personalized communication on the same touch point, meaning on the website, and the personalization happens on the level of individual profile. So it's not just some kind of pseudo audience or look-alike audience. It's hyper personalized and it's one profile granularity level, right? So what does it mean that we get single view of a customer? We get all the attributes that describe the profile. So that would mean whether it's name, surname, contact details. We know their shopping history. We know their average spends and so on. We know their product, brand preferences, payment methods, you name it. But we also know what kind of segments that profile belongs to. So basically, we are in the real time able to apply the business rules, put them into the right audience, and based on that audience, we can also decide on the touch point what kind of message we want to show to this particular profile, to this particular client. So that's single view of a customer. We are not just building a beautiful profile card, but it has its purpose, and the purpose is to provide hyper-personalized communication at the level of the profile. How do we actually match the identities? Most probably you have heard about deterministic and probabilistic matching. Those two basic models on how to decide or how to stitch the identity together have its own place in the process, both of them, and both of them have its advantages and also disadvantages depending on the purpose of the data and on the use of the data. So deterministic process, and that's the process that Meiro CDP is focusing on, is very exact model for the identity matching. So it's based on the exact match of deterministic attributes such as email, login ID, but it can be also CRM ID, but it's also using first-party IDs that are the trackings from the website or mobile applications and so on. The deterministic model is highly accurate. There is no guesswork. So either the attributes match and then it knows it's the same person, or they do not match and then it's not the same person. Nothing in between, black or white, no shades of gray. It has very decent coverage. Of course, you can imagine the edge cases where it's not possible to collect the data that would have the same kind of attribute that would be used for deterministic matching. So high accuracy, very decent coverage, but let's say moderate coverage on the data. Now, probabilistic matching, it's not as exact as deterministic matching, but it can be used in cases where the deterministic data is missing. So it would be depending more on patterns, either timestamps or device fingerprinting, session IDs, and so on. And it's a lot more about guessing. So there is certain level of probability that those two pieces of data belong together and they create one profile. With probabilistic matching, the probability, and the name suggests, is usually, and I would say always, lower than 100%. With deterministic, it's always 100%. So either it's a fit or no fit. With probabilistic, we can say, yeah, it's 80% fit, but there is 20% risk that we actually connect together the data that is not one person, right? And that actually gives you a very good idea on what are the use cases for those two types of matching. Deterministic matching, very accurate. So it includes even accurate information about consents, accurate information about the contact details. Probabilistic, well, can you risk the 20% risk that you put together the data for the profiles with wrong consent? I wouldn't say so. So, deterministic you can use for direct personalized communication. Probabilistic, maybe in some cases, but mostly it would be used to give you better idea in analytics. So it's sort of like modeling or computing the audience you might be missing otherwise. But it's always questionable how far you want to go in personalized communication and activation with probabilistic matching based profiles. Mayra focuses on deterministic, and our main focus on deterministic is here for privacy and accuracy of the profiles. Of course, it is possible to use probabilistic methods to improve the coverage of the data within Mayra CDP, but the main model is purely deterministic. The deterministic approach, as I said, helps you to make sure that you have complete traceability of every data event that is attributed to the profile. So you can always go back in time and see where that data piece for the profile comes from, when it was acquired, and from which data source. So deterministic model gives us the extra safety for activations, and it could be used for personalized communication. Probabilistic data, if you need to fill in the blanks in the analytics and you want to get as complete picture of your data as possible, then some probabilistic methods are definitely useful. Okay. There is a bit of a comparison between those two methods. So you can see deterministic and probabilistic matching. As I said, the accuracy of deterministic matching very close to 100%. With probabilistic matching, it depends. It depends on the settings. So you can run with the probabilistic or probability of matching somewhere between 60 to 80%, depending on your risk tolerance. And you can do some kind of soft ID matching and so on. the coverage for the deterministic match will be limited to the touch points and their ability to provide the data that can be matched on the exact attributes. Use cases I've already mentioned, so the deterministic mostly for activations and consent-based communication. Probabilistic, very good addition to analytics and maybe to audience modeling, lookalike trainings, and so on. Compliance can only be guaranteed with deterministic match. I don't think you can take probabilistic matching as 100% compliant with GDPRs and the other rules. So be careful about that one. And we've been through the examples, so that would be the comparison between deterministic and probabilistic matchings. Now, identity graph, another very important term in identity resolution. Identity graph can be as complex as you see on that picture, and it basically shows you all the points of the data or all the events that will bring in some data into the system and the connections between those events. So basically, it visualizes the connection between the data and between the deterministic rules. It says that, for example, a website view provides the data that can be connected to other data events coming in from the website data source. The identity graph is especially useful when you want to not only configure and define the identity stitching, but also when you want to trace back how the data is connected and what is the lineage of the data. The identity graph in Miro is continuously updated. Every single event is evaluated in real time, and if it matches based on the deterministic rules, it will be attributed to the profile. The identity graph, you can also simplify it into this block view where we have let's say, an example of the data sources such as mobile application, customer care system, website, mobile app, and so on. And each of those systems is providing a unique data set. So then we are looking for the common identifiers among those pieces of data, and that can be user ID, it can be email, it can be hashes of the contact details, it can be ads ID, you name it, right? And based on those identifiers, we are connecting those pieces of data together. And again, the result is single view of a client. What is the process behind identity resolution? Obviously, the first step is to collect the data. The data can be either collected directly, for example, through our web and mobile SDKs, or we can get the data from any kind of data storage, such as data warehouse, CRM systems, and so on. From the data, we would extract the identifier. That could be contact details, email, phone number, customer ID. And then we run the matching and cross-linking of the data. If the match is found, the profile is merged or the event is attributed to the profile, and then the profiles can be used for activations or analytics. The scenario here, it would be a very common one. Visitor browses the website. First thing that happens, Miro SDK would assign them first-party cookie. Then this person on the website subscribes to a newsletter. Immediately we get the email data, either hashed, well, it's always hashed, or any other form of the contact details. And as we assigned the cookie previously, it's still part of the data event, and immediately this anonymous browsing session gets attributed and connected to the submitted email address. As a double opt-in, we send this user an email to confirm that they actually submitted or subscribed for the newsletter. They click on the confirmation. Of course, this link in the email is tracked, and this attributes, again, this action or event in the email towards this profile. So immediately we get the value in the attribute last open email would be double opt-in campaign. Now they might continue on the website. They will purchase anything in the store. The data about the purchase is saved in CRM. And at the same time, we are getting the behavioral data from the website. So we would be getting the event of purchase finished with the ID, with the first party cookie, and also most probably with the email address and so on. Based on that information, the event from CRM can be easily connected with the behavioral data on the website. That greatly extends the profile because not only we see the data from the purchase, but we also see everything and anything that happened before the purchase. So we know what was the cart opener, what was the additional product that the client added after the first product into the basket, whether they responded to any banners on the website. We also know how they respond to recommended products and so on. So extending the data about the profile, and it's all merged into single view of a client. Again, the identity resolution in Mairo CDP again uses the identity graph. That's what we talked about previously. And the profile itself consists of attributes, identifiers, and attributed events. So basically, we are getting the data through the events, extracting the attributes from the events, and all those attributes will give us the description of the profile. The profiles are fully configurable in Mairo CDP, and we fully recognize that the world cannot be simplified into one form-fits-all profile. So there would be definitely many, many types of profiles, such as physical person, B2C business model usually works with physical people as the profile entity. However, there is, for example, B2B business model where the profile would be more of the account, most probably. It's a company, so they cannot be even the same. The data model between the physical person and the company would most probably be different. In Mairo CDP, it's also possible to use multiple profile types in the same instance. So for example, with B2B business model, we can have accounts as those companies, and each account can have multiple contacts linked to it. And those two types of entities would be completely different data structure with their own set of attributes, and they can be cross-linked. So account will have multiple contacts, and a contact can even belong to one or many possible accounts. Privacy and compliance. As I tried to highlight within the description of deterministic matching, Mairo really focuses on compliance and privacy of the clients. So a huge part of the profile would be anything related to consent. All the consent data can be stored on the profile, and it can also be freely defined what we want to store and in what kind of data structure. So again, not trying to fit all the consent data into some preset template. We can define any kind of consent attributes, and it can be a full set of consent attributes, not only one with multiple dimensions. This allows to track the consents not only for one domain. If you are using multiple domains, you can definitely track the consent through multiple domains, also through multiple channels, and you can easily create data store for your consent center, right? So all the information about consents from multiple sources, multiple systems, and so on can be centralized into the profile data in CDP. How do we actually get the most of the identity set up? So sort of best practices on how to set up the identity in CDP. As we are mostly using the deterministic matching or deterministic model to identify the profiles, we use stable identifiers. So something that is highly reliable, that is showing, let's say, stability across multiple systems, such as customer IDs, email addresses, and so on. With email addresses, of course, they might be prone to typos, duplications, and so on. But Meiro CDP is able to transform, validate, and even to some extent clean the data. So you can even use those capabilities of the integration layer to help you with the data quality with the primary identifiers and even increase the match rates and the identity stitching rules or matches. The ID of the profiles can be really propagated across the systems, and I cannot stress more to test the merges before activations to avoid like super complex entities and overlinking of the profiles. Sometimes we see, I would say, too optimistic or too benevolent rules for merging of the identity that would create a super profile. What do I mean by super profile? Those would be profiles that have more than 10,000 merges of individual events to them. From the experience, we know that such profiles are possible. They are not necessarily wrong, but it's sort of a red flag that something is probably wrong with this profile. And it can happen easily in multiple use cases. So test merge before you activate and look for suspicious profiles. Meiro is actually indicating suspicious profiles automatically to you, so you can always investigate what is going on with this particular profile. Documentation, that's the usual thing with any IT project, I would say. Document what you meant by the rules, how the rules were actually created, why there is the exact match between the identifiers and so on. So that obviously is a best practice to any project. What would be the common pitfalls or what we see might go wrong with the identity stitchings? As I said, the too optimistic or too wide rules for the stitching can lead to over merging of, let's say, shared devices and so on. So the usual cases here would be, for example, shared devices in public libraries. I know it's not that common these days. Everybody has their own mobile phone and so on, but sometimes we are surprised that there is one shared laptop or one shared tablet to, for example, a customer event. And when you use it as hard ID, you would probably stitch together profiles that should have never been stitched together. Another pitfall might be ignoring anonymous sessions. Well, anonymous users or anonymous visitors are or seem to be impossible to address with personalized communication. but that's not exactly right. We know a lot even about anonymous visitor. We know their preferences, we know their behavior, and we can address them. So focus on behavioral data for anonymous sessions and use it in activations. Uh, Securities, of course, if you are using any data, make sure it's super secure, hash whatever needs to be hashed, and make sure that you are transferring the data in secure form, setting inconsistent link rules across environments. Um, that seems to be, again, quite obvious, but again, it happens, and then we get let's say, reports of issues saying, oh, we have that many profiles on staging, but only that many profiles in production. What happens? Well, what happens is usually different rules on different environments. So the key takeaways before I go into use cases, data strategy or identity management as such enables true customer-centric personalization. And I would add, it does so with the consent compliance in mind. Mira makes identity linking really well configurable. It's fully transparent and it's real-time processed. Unified identity, that should be the goal. We should really focus on creating rich profiles and really unified single view of a client, because that helps us with better personalization, better targeting, and maybe even higher loyalty with lower costs. Use cases. Of course, when we get a reliable ID or a reliable identity of the client, we know how to address them. And together with business, we should be able to create personalized content and also personalized offers that increase the probability of the client to converting or responding positively on our communication. One of those could be, for example, price drops. If we keep the identity of the user connected to their behavior on the website, it's easy for us to find out people who are interested in specific products, but they did not purchase, right? And the reason might be that they only viewed a product that is in full price. So let's try to address them with the communication of price drop. The product you are interested in is now discounted for 20%. Why don't you come back, have a look? Maybe you decide to buy it, right? So it's the price incentive. Of course, the more information you have about the particular profile, the more you know about their price sensitivity, right? And that also optimizes your internal processes. Do not address every single person with the price incentive. Maybe try to address them with bundles, maybe with the free shipping or extra luxury stuff because they might be very much into it. Churn predictions. To be able to predict whether the client will stick to your brand and they will continue shopping and they will spend more money with you means that you need to know what was their past behavior. And maybe you also need to know how to compare them to similar clients with similar types of behavior. So again, the more you know about them and the more data you are able to unify into the single view of a client, the easier it is for you to predict the churn and maybe even increase the loyalty of the client. Upsells and cross-sells. If we really want to focus on personalized offers, we need to know whom we are offering the upsells and cross-sells to. So the most ridiculous thing that can happen to you is that you recommend to the person the same product that they already bought, right? So just imagine that you buy new TV. Next time, next week, you receive a bright, shiny, personalized offer from the brand saying, "Oh, we have great offer just for you. Why don't you look at this TV?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now in my living room." Not a personalized offer, right? So if you want to be really efficient with upsells and cross sells, you really need to know what they bought in the past, what is their pattern of behavior, and based on that, you can recommend relevant products and services. Loyalty programs. Now, CDP is not your substitute for a full-blown loyalty system, right? But it can still store data that will help you with the loyalty systems. We can definitely count the loyalty points and so on. And what is more important, based on the loyalty systems or points and the rules, we can send particular personalized communication to the right person. So if they are just a few points short on getting to the next loyalty level, of course, we can try to push them to another purchase when they earn those extra 5, 7, 2000 points and they get a platinum loyalty level. Online to offline attribution. Now, if you are in retail and you still have brick and mortar stores, congratulations, they are my favorite types of stores, but it would be a missed opportunity if you are not collecting the data from those points of sale and not connecting that data with the online behavior of the client. So the usual pattern, at least my usual pattern when I choose new running shoes is first I visit the website, look at what they have in offer, what's the latest and greatest, and then because it's kind of hard to choose the right size of the running shoes online, I very often go to the store, try the shoes on, and either decide whether I buy them directly in the store or whether I go back home and I order them from the website, right? Tracking the data through the entire customer journey will give us the opportunity to address the client with the right communication, but also to attribute that action to the right channel. So then when you see your quarterly reviews of channels in the marketing mix and so on, you will be able to properly assess that a lot of online purchases are actually brick and mortar shop assisted. And closing that brick and mortar shop would be a huge mistake because I would never buy my running shoes without trying them on in that shop. All right. So that's the online and offline attribution. Now, single view of a customer is not that easy when it comes to tracking the client across multiple domains. As you can see in this example, we have three different brands of retail stores. That means three different websites, three different points of sale system. And if we are able to collect the data of all those data points into a single CDP instance, of course, we can create a unified view of a customer and we can use it for cross-brand promotions and cross-brand communication. It brings another level of complexity in terms of consents, but it also brings another level of opportunity in terms of personalized communication. So just imagine an example that at one brand, the person is always shopping for high luxury products. And on the other one, they are looking at the sales products, right? Or the products that are on sale. Now, we can also try to address them saying, oh, why don't you look at this brand on what we have in the luxury brand? And if you buy it in bundle, we can give you a really good price on it. So get the complete picture of a customer even across multiple domains. Now, as I said, not using anonymous data would be a mistake. So anonymous people have identity too. They are not only, brave enough to share with us their contact details yet, but they might do it later. So even for anonymous profiles, as we are tracking their identity, we can use personalized activations. You still have your anonymous visitor on the website. They put a couple of products in the basket, in the shopping cart, and they are just about to leave. How do we know that they are just about to leave? Well, their mouse cursor is moving dangerously towards the top of the browser. They are just about to hit the back button on the browser or close your tab. And that's just the right point where you want to show them your beautiful offer saying, finish your purchase now, get 10% extra off. Maybe they will be moved towards the conversion. Content and product recommendation in that case. So if we see that the anonymous visitor is browsing a particular type of a product or a category of the product, or if you are running a content site, you can definitely recommend the content or the product to them, right? And it can be within one session or after the next visit. So if on my first visit, I'm interested in articles about space exploration and distant galaxies and you name it, next time when I arrive to your content website, of course, it would be nice to see on the first three positions articles focusing on space and astronauts. Dynamic lead capture forms, still talking about anonymous users. Now, we see that, for example, on a travel agency website, they cannot decide where they want to go, whether it's going to be Greece or Mallorca or Egypt. So we can try to ask them for zero-party data. Give us your email address because we already see your preferences. And we promise that on that email address, we will deliver a curated list of the best offers we have for those three destinations that you are looking at in the next 14 days, right? So it's a very limited offer. It's curated just for you. We are not misusing and abusing your email address, telling you straight ahead what we will send, and it brings you good value. So motivate the client to give you their data. Personalized homepages and landing pages, very much in compliance to what I said previously. Based on my previous behavior, on my previous visits, please recommend or show me the products and categories that I'm actually interested in so that I do not have to go to the same category again and again through many, many clicks anytime I visit your website. Audience building for paid media retargeting. Obviously, this is not only relevant to anonymous users, but to identified as well. And the goal is to only advertise or spend our ads budget on the profiles that have higher probability of actually positively responding to those ads, right? And do not overspend or do not spend your precious ads budget on people who already converted, right? So use the exclusion audience and base your exclusion audiences on well-defined profiles. And that's it. We are to questions and answers. Let me check if we have any questions and answers in the session. I do not think so. At least I cannot see any. Let me check once again. So now it's your last chance to put any questions if you have any in our question and answer chat. I'll give you 1 minute. It's not been a minute, but nothing is happening. So with that, thank you very much for attending another Mayro webinar. And I'm very much looking forward to have you on any webinar organized in future. Have a great day. Take care and talk to you next time.